Was this ill-timed, do you think?
Well, it seems that Boris's own Red Wall MPs seem to be a little frustrated with him. I see reports in The Guardian that, let's put it in the Ofcom friendly at this time in the morning, they're slightly piddled off with him, even his most die-hard supporters. We saw, of course, a lot of Tory MPs came out and backed him on him getting the big calls right, and Ukraine seems to be one of those calls. So there are some suggestions that Boris made his train from Doncaster for the Northern Research Summit yesterday, a connecting flight to Kyiv, because potentially he'd prefer the better press of being seen as a world leader, someone who's very strong, someone who's very dedicated to ensuring Ukrainian independence, rather than staring down the barrel of some perhaps disaffected supporters, some backbenchers who aren't on board with the recent Partygate fines, or even some of the Red Wall MPs that are looking to lose their seats in the upcoming Wakefield by-election, which I know you'll be discussing by-elections with Ella shortly.
Maybe he just wrote them off. They know they're going to lose them. There's no point in him going up there. So better to spend his time going to Ukraine.
See, I don't think the Tory party are writing off the Red Wall as much as a lot of the pundits think, or the Labour Party would hope. Just because if you look at the positions of the recent party conferences, last year it was in Manchester, this year it's in Birmingham, they're seeming to try to court the awareness, or at least the perception, that they want to breach the Westminster bubble, go out there and meet people on the ground level. I just do wonder if Boris is making too much of a Westminster bubble gamble, because he seems to think that his leadership on Ukraine is causing favour within his own party. I mean, it was one of the Tory MPs who wrote a letter to him, one of his fiercest critics last week, said that the first visit to Kyiv was a conspicuous example of global leadership. So he even praised him in his letter, saying you should go on that event. And the media seems to at least give more favourable coverage, with the picture speaking 1,000 words of him walking down the street with Zelensky. But when you have the public who say, well, at home, you're spending a lot of money on things like training up 10,000 soldiers every 120 days for Ukraine. We obviously want to support Ukraine, but when you've got massive cost of living spikes, inflation staring down 11%, when you've got an unwillingness to address taxes and of VAT, fuel duty, green levies, etc., on fuel and household energy bills, people were rightly going, well, why are you focusing abroad? I kind of can't afford to care about issues not only beyond my own borders, but beyond my own household.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, he's got to look after the foundations, hasn't he? Which is, you know, those issues and keeping the backbenchers on side.
To appropriate a Jordan Peterson quote, you have to clean your own bedroom first before you go about ordering the world. And that makes you, as a world leader, particularly if you're particularly world orders, more able to be of use to the global community if you understand your own values, if you put them into practice, if you lead by example. And at the moment, one of the defining features of the government, which I personally voted for and was quite optimistic about in 2019, prior to COVID coming in and all that, is an abandonment of libertarian promises, it's difficulty with Brexit, it's hyperinflation caused by lots of money printing, it's an unwillingness to lower the taxes that they said they would, and to sort of kick it down the road approach to things like income tax and that, to say, oh, don't worry, right before the next election, when we'll be getting in, we'll lower things like income tax, etc. It seems to be an abandonment of its promises by many of its voters, and people are going, well, you don't seem to care about the kitchen sink issues. Why should I care if you're in Kyiv at the moment?